Become the architect of your dream life. Today, we are speaking with Gabby Ortega. She is a holistic trauma therapist and coach. And you guys, this is going to be a conversation. I cannot wait. Thank you for being here on Set to Love today. Here we go.
My name is Eva Payne. Welcome to The Flow Life, where we define love as live open, value everything. On this podcast, you are dialed in and set to love. Let's go for a ride.
Good morning, Gabby.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you. You have an amazing Instagram. That's where I find a lot of my guests. And I was like, I need to get this woman on the show. So thank you so much for saying yes and for coming on today to talk about designing this dream life for yourself. But before we dive into that, can you just let people know who you are, what your background is, and how you got into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi guys, I'm Gabby. I am a holistic trauma therapist and life coach. I started this whole journey really with the self-healing purpose of healing my own childhood trauma, as well as trauma that happened to me in my mid-20s. I really suffered from chronic anxiety, depression, PTSD, lots of mental health stuff. And at a certain point, I realized that the only one who's going to save me is me. And I went back to school. I decided to learn everything I could about trauma, childhood development, neurobiology, meditation, mindfulness, holistic healing, nervous system regulation, et cetera, because I was just done being unhappy and done being on the struggle bus. I was like tired of the struggle bus. So I did that. And while I was in school, I started an Instagram page. This was just when therapists had just started showing up on social media because we really weren't allowed to. And like, it was actually a big no-no for us. So it was kind of scary to jump on there. But I felt it was so important that people learn the tools to heal themselves, because you don't need to, I mean, it's great, but you don't need to necessarily invest thousands of dollars in a coach or a, guru or a therapist. Like, it would have access to that kind of privilege. And so it was really important for me to share the things that I was doing with on myself to heal that were working, what I was doing with clients as a therapist. And really what my page was all about was about building community, bringing together self-healers and giving people the tools that they needed, because we are our own best healer. That is really, truly as a therapist and a coach, you are your own best healer, not me. And I really am passionate about giving people those tools, because when we all are healed and happy, the world is a very different place. And the people in charge would be very, very different people. And so on a larger scale, my hope is to help heal the world by helping people heal themselves.
I totally agree with that. I really say, I think about like getting to your purpose in life like that. What is your purpose? What is your meaning? But it's so hard to even see that or have clarity when you're dealing with all the stuff in the past, all that trauma, or not able to really handle the current situations with like grace and love. And so let's dive into what are some of these techniques to really build this dream architect, how do you architect this dream life for yourself? So where do you even start? I mean, it sounds so good, but how do you even start that journey?
It sounds like, okay, like, who is this like girl, like, who probably has a lot of help and like, probably didn't do this on her own and yada, yada. Like, totally hear you. I probably would be like skeptical as well. Like, I don't, we can't change our circumstances, and there's so much, again, whatever, those stories are. But I've lived it. So I literally cannot say that it doesn't work at this point, because I've lived this experience. The very first thing is to become the conscious observer of your thoughts and feelings. It was a huge thing for me to realize that my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings, the things that were happening to me and inside me were not conscious. Most of our 95% actually of our behavior comes from subconscious programming. And this is formed between the ages of 0 and 7 years old. it imprints into our psyche, becomes our personality, becomes how we see the world, ourselves, everything we come to believe. And then when we interact in the world, when we have this belief system, when we have this perspective, then everything that happens to us filters through this lens. And so, if you've grown up with a lot of really negative messages, like if you've been bullied, if you've grown up with family or parents or dysfunctional, chaotic childhood home, parents who are fighting a lot, who maybe were not so kind to you, you may have belief systems that are not serving you, that say things like you are not capable of doing hard things, that you are not smart enough, you are not fast enough, you're not good enough, you're not, people aren't going to like you, they don't want to hear what you have to say, all of these things, you're not allowed to take up space. These beliefs aren't truths. And when I was able to kind of understand, okay, the thoughts that are popping up in my head are automatic. They come from this deep rooted place of programming, not necessarily from my conscious soul self, my true self. And the best way to kind of explain an automatic thought, if you're kind of like, oh, what is that? It's like when you're, I don't know, like when you're interacting with somebody, let's say, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I said something wrong. Like I shouldn't have said that. That it was stupid. I'm so stupid. Those kinds of they pop in your head and they're like not very nice. But once you can kind of start to notice, you can catch those thoughts and go, okay, what am I feeling? I'm feeling a little bit of shame, a little bit of embarrassment. I'm feeling a little vulnerable because of something I just said that maybe didn't go over perfectly. The thought in my head is that I'm stupid. I should shut up. I should never say anything. I shouldn't even be here. But let me stop that, because that's actually going to make me smaller. It's going to make me contract. It's not going to actually make me engage in behavior that will nourish maybe the relationship in front of me or will help me grow. It'll actually shut me down. So instead I can say, ooh, maybe I said something that wasn't perfect, and that's okay. I can just own it. No need to feel weird about it. I can even say, hey, I don't know if I said that right. Let me try that again. And giving yourself that permission to reframe those automatic thoughts to support you so that you can actually go do the things you want to do. Because if you're thinking to yourself, like I am an anxious mess. I'm so depressed. I have nothing going for me. I don't know who I am. The world is a dangerous place. Like nothing good ever happens to me. If I kept living in that reality, the decisions I was making, numbing out with substances, not giving myself an opportunity to heal, not feeling worthy of stepping into a better situation or trying for something better, I wouldn't be here. So, it's really about, number one, growing your conscious awareness, growing awareness around what are these triggers that happen to me? What am I feeling in my body? What are the thoughts that then pop up in my head? And can I actually catch those in the moment to reframe them to support my growth, my happiness, feeling whole versus, keeping them in this negative, tearing down type of state.
It's really interesting. When I was talking to you a little bit before, but when I was going through my divorce, when I first started listening to The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, it was this epiphany moment to wait, be aware, be the conscious observer of the thoughts that are coming in. And it's such a basic concept to me now, but when I was going through it at the time or really learning about it, it was very novel, and it really brought a lot of peace and kind of kept me out of crazy town. Because when something would come in, like you said, I would just go, okay, wait, hold on. This isn't ideal. So what is it? And is there truth in this? And I would just start therapying myself is what I called it. I start analyzing the thought that was coming in. And then just being kind to myself and allowing myself this space to, like you said, own whatever it is maybe I had said or done that wasn't in 100% alignment with how maybe I would have wanted to respond if I was fully conscious and aware in the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of just kind of reacting in a certain situation. And that in and of itself, even owning it, was this journey that I still find myself on. I'll say something or have said something the other day and someone will bring it up, or someone will say something and I think, oh my gosh, I think I hurt their feelings, or maybe I shouldn't have said it that way. And I I start having this conversation in my head with the person right in front of me, like, Eva, just own your part. Just apologize. It's okay. Just in 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, and I start like counting down. And then it's like,
I love that.
But once you start, and then it's like never as bad as you think it's going to be. Like I make up some story of how it's going to play out if I just sit in it and own it and forgive myself for not being perfect or not responding in this perfect way all the time. It is really a practice, and it is something that is learned. And it boggles my mind that we don't teach this in school, this kind of self-awareness, because it is
it's
so
the key
important
to everything. Like
peace.
we're living in reaction to life. We're living in reaction all the time, rather than living a life where you're feeling like you're putting out fires all the time. Like, what if you could actually get in front of it? And that's the point. Is like, instead of like running, putting out fires, it's like all of a sudden you actually have stillness and you can go, what do I choose? And maybe that choice is actually to let the fires burn and to walk away, you know?
That's really powerful. I love that. Okay. So being consciously aware of your feelings. Okay. So now let's say I'm in the situation, I'm aware, like these feelings keep coming up, or there's a pattern I'm recognizing, or, whatever my thing is. Then what do I do with it? So like for me, a long time, jealousy was something that like I would constantly get in these like ruminating about situations, and it was around jealousy in my relationship. And so then what do I do with that once it like comes up?
Yeah, definitely. So this is where I found a lot of frustration. A lot of my clients who are my coaching clients had a lot of frustration with the therapy process, because we get a lot of self-awareness and then we're still doing the same stuff. We're still finding ourselves like trapped in this cycle of bad behavior or stuff that we're just staying small, or we still feel jealous. And even though we're consciously aware of like, oh, well, the jealousy comes from the fact that I think, I didn't receive a lot of love and emotional support as a kid. And now I'm feeling like I'm not receiving that in my relationship. And like, yes, we understand here, but we're still in pain here. And what the trauma like specialization that I have like has really taught me is that you can be aware all day, but in order to take aligned action, your body has to feel safe doing it. So a lot of my clients come to me and they'll be like, I've been in therapy for 25 years. All I know is like, I'm hyper self-aware and I hate myself. And I see myself doing the things that I'm not supposed to be doing every day. And I keep finding myself trapped in these cycles of feeling the same way. And then I'm just hyper aware now and it sucks. And I'm like, yeah, that's because in your body, you're not feeling safe yet to be able to take action on this. If you are jealous or envious, if that's a feeling that comes up for you, totally normal human feeling. Don't feel weird about it. It just is an indication of something that you're needing, like a need that's not being met, a desire that's not being fulfilled, something that you want for yourself, which is not a bad thing, right? But let's say the jealousy, in your relationship, or let's say it's because like, maybe the mirror is that you're not allowing yourself to be like this divine feminine fucking goddess. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can curse.
You're good.
But like, if you can be this divine feminine goddess and you see other women doing this and you're like, oh, I don't like that. That's like blah, blah, blah. But like, what if that actually is your calling to step into your divine feminine sovereignty? And that's where the jealousy comes from. Well, you're not going to go and take a pole dancing class because you're not feeling safe maybe to do that in your body. You may not even take the first step of like self-exploration and pleasure practice and things like that to figure out what it is that you want to do to make yourself more in that power of that energy. So nervous system regulation, like whenever our nervous systems are so sensitive, they control our fight, flight, fawn, freeze response. It is everything. If we are activated, which is basically 99% of the time, if you're breathing from your chest up here, you're in fight or flight, by the way. If you're not breathing from your belly, you're activated. So I think a lot of people will be like, right now, if you're watching this, like check, are you breathing from here or down here? So when we are activated in fight or flight, because it's a stress response. We could really get set off by, driving down the road and you miss a light or something. Now you have to wait at the light. Now you're like, oh my God, I have to wait. Or maybe because someone says something to you and it rubs you the wrong way, or whatever it is, any kind of small stress will set you into that fight or flight response. Now, As children, we're really, really sensitive. We're like sensitive little beings, you know, like we're just figuring out the world, and our nervous systems are brand new. And every experience that we have imprints on our nervous system. And so there's a reason that you don't feel safe to expand and move past the jealousy. And it's some nervous system dysregulation that usually is rooted in an early childhood experience. And so what I do with my clients is we actually do a full life timeline of like, tell me everything that you've gone through from the beginning that you can remember up until now. And I will find these places along the timeline where I'm like, there you're stuck. There you're stuck, there you're stuck, there you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And we go in and we re-regulate the nervous system around these experiences, coupled with hypnosis and subconscious reprogramming to rewrite in your subconscious mind the emotional experiences and the trauma. And when they're done with that, it's like they can do whatever they want. They just like literally can go and create the life of their dreams because they feel safe to receive that life. They feel safe to step into that life. And when the body feels in control and safe, your brain stops doing all the funky stuff and you get clear and you can take aligned action. And that's the last step, which is you're aware, you know, your thoughts and your feelings, you know, your root of where things come from. You're very clear and about all of that. You've got your nervous system regulation to help you feel safe moving into the next stage of recreating who you are. And then you just do it. And then that is really where you get clear about, you know, what are your values? What are your priorities when it comes to family, career, the relationship you have with yourself, finances, you know, all of these aspects of your life, and get clear in every area. And then where anything doesn't align, you throw it out and you get in alignment with those lists. You know, in your life, if you're not living in alignment with those lists of what are your values and your priorities, what are important to you, then you need to shift and make sure that your actual lived experience matches these lists. And that's how you really take control, you know, and take the reins over, you know, every aspect of your lived experience. And you don't have to be a slave to, you know, your nervous system, to your, you know, stress response, to your trauma, to your thoughts, to your emotions, and literally can make conscious choices from the time that you wake up to the time that you go to bed. And then watch, like in 6 months, I had a 6-figure business, living my dream life, like helping people all through Instagram. Like I never thought that was even a thing. And then it became my life. And I can only say that like it is the most powerful work on this planet to do for yourself.
So do you I love that. Do you think that this is, and you've seen it, so I would love to like hear an example. So like nowadays, I know there are a lot of people still, which, you know, I think therapy is like one of the greatest things ever, whether it's coaching or actual therapy or whatever it is you're doing. But have you found that being able to step away from being the traditional therapist and doing it more in this coaching way, doing it on Zoom, like really connecting with people, that's beneficial, like that you don't have to be in person. You don't have to drive 45 minutes to a therapist's office and sit in there and just talk and they just listen. And then you leave and go, what did I do? I just talked for an hour. I didn't learn anything. So how is like your approach and what it is that you do? How is it different than traditional sort of therapy?
Yeah. So this is a really good question. I think something that like, I don't know that coaches are really confident in talking about, but since I literally come from both spaces, I like love talking about this. So the interesting thing is that I found actually better results with my coaching clients, like faster results, because of the fact that we're not in the same room together. I work specifically with people who, you know, identify with the word trauma, that they've experienced childhood trauma or major trauma. And for trauma survivors, and which, to be real with you guys, I think everybody is a childhood trauma survivor, because trauma is only things that happen too fast, too much, or too soon for you to be able to integrate. So it's like, could be anything. But I found that, and this is the feedback I've gotten too, is that when people can stay in the safety of their own home, when they are in familiar space, when they're not actually face to face in the energetic space with the therapist, which can be very triggering for trauma survivors. Like it's very, like the nervous system doesn't like it. It's very anxiety provoking to sit right in front of somebody and like basically bury your soul out and feel those feelings, even though it's important. Like I do think the in-person work is really awesome too. But I've found actually that, ironically enough, when people can stay in their own home, they can be in their, you know, comfortable clothes, they can have their dog, like I have my dog back here. they make really fast progress because they know at the end of the day, they can close that computer if things feel too intense. They're still in their safe space. Their nervous system is really settled. And so for that reason, we can talk about some really difficult things without it being so re-traumatizing. And so I found it actually to be quite an interesting experiment as a researcher myself, to see that actually there's a lot that can happen on Zoom. I've had people do breath work where they're just sobbing, releasing so much trauma that's been stored in their nervous system that they didn't even realize was there. And then the next week they're messaging me all week and they're just like, oh my God, I like talked to this person. I've been using my voice. I've been setting boundaries. I feel like a new person. And it's just like the most amazing feeling. So, in my opinion, if we can work in a space that helps our nervous system out because we can be in our home, that to me is like awesome. We'll get more things done that way.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. And I agree. I'm really fascinated by what you're able to accomplish on Zoom or even just on a call. And I think it frees up everyone. I think the therapists and or coaches are so much happier because they get to be home as well. Just some final thoughts. I'd love to know what's a practice that somebody could do today. What's something that someone that you might give to one of your clients, like maybe in the beginning phases of just this sort of becoming aware, or once they're aware, and those feelings start to come up, how do you sort of regulate yourself and bring yourself down? Or what are some of maybe what's a practice that you would recommend to someone just to try this week, test it out and see how it feels for you?
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. So, I'm going to be this person and I'm going to just say right away, meditate, meditate, meditate. You need to sit down. You need to be still. You need to listen to your thoughts. Just start observing. If that feels like too annoying and you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to sit there and meditate. I'm not ready for that. I would just say, like, as you're moving through your day, just start listening to your thoughts, like start observing don't attach to them. I like to think of it as like, if you can imagine yourself, like you're sitting on a ledge overlooking a highway and your thoughts and feelings are cars passing by, start by just detaching and observing. And that is the easiest way to start understanding what are the themes that are coming up in my head, what are the cycles of thoughts, patterns of thoughts that I have. And then from there, you can see whether or not they're actually serving you and make a change. Journal about it. I journal every single day for at least 5 minutes. You can do this in your phone. You can pull up your notes in your phone. You can speak it into the voice memo if you don't like writing, or you can write it in a book. But really just start observing and recording, like, okay, today this is like what I felt, today this is what happened, and observe. If you're feeling activated, like you're in an anxious space, or you're in an angry space, which is the fight or flight response, move your body. People think like, oh, I'm going to go and to down regulate, I need to sit and like be still. But for those of us with anxiety, that's like the worst. I mean, we're just like fidgety. We can't stop thinking. So rather than getting still, actually go and move your body for 30 minutes. So go for a walk, dance. I love somatic shaking, which is just a fancy word for dance your tushy off to some really good music that makes you feel good. Go have sex with yourself or a partner, like go do something physical, work out. But when you do that physicality, you actually are taking the vagus nerve and you're kind of like doing a hard reset. So that way you actually can down regulate and come back to a space of peace because you activated and you like kind of got it out kinetically, and then you can come back to sitting in stillness a lot easier than just, oh, I'm anxious, I'm going to sit still. Like that's actually going to be really worse.
Oh my gosh, that was a great tip. Oh, Gabby, that was so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. Any final thoughts on this subject, on this topic of being the architect of your dream life before we head out today?
Yeah, I think I want to make like a super, super important point, which is that, I think there's a lot of bypassing that happens when we talk about like this kind of stuff. We kind of ignore the systemic oppression, systemic racism, the problems that folks have stuff stacked against them. My mom is an immigrant. She came here from Cuba with nothing, and she actually became a psychologist. And I watched her kind of become the architect of her life while I was growing up. So I'm very aware of the fact that there's a lot of privilege out there, and that this may seem like a very privileged thing to do. And that, there might be folks saying, hey, like I still have to deal with the fact that, I could get pulled over by a police officer and shot today. Like, that is a very real reality. So I want to just acknowledge that like there are a lot of dynamics happening in the world. There's a lot that goes against us. And as a woman, and you yourself as a cis woman, like, like as women, we've had things that are systemic against, that prevent us from really stepping into our fullest, potential as easily. What I want to say, though, is that it's still possible. Is that despite all the stuff that's stacked against you, despite, all of the ways in which the world is broken, you can do this and you can transcend these systems. You can transcend this shit. Excuse my language. I get very passionate because you can. So I just want to offer that. I want to offer that there's both can exist, that we can live in a space where there's a lot of unfair stuff stacked against us, and we can transcend it by elevating our consciousness and really healing ourselves, and then create more space for more people, who come after us. So just keep going and keep trying and keep working on yourself, because you have no idea what that's going to unlock for the rest of humanity.
I love it. For the rest of humanity. I love that it's not just for yourself or for you and your family or you and your community, but like that you see it, that just by unlocking your own potential and who you are, that ripple effect can truly impact humanity. And so thank you so much for this work that you're doing in this space and for stepping into it and just believing it and finding your own flow and sharing it with the world and healing so many people out there.
Oh, it's like literally my absolute honor.
Well, you can tell, and this is the thing, like when you're living in flow with what it is that you're meant to do, it's just the energy that you put off into the world is so different from someone who is not in that space yet, So when you see someone, it's very attractive. Like you want to be around that person. You want to learn from that person. You want to be in that space because I believe that's how we're meant to live. We're all meant to find our flow and live in that flow. So you are helping people find that. And I appreciate that and that work that you're doing. Where can people find you, Gabby, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So come hang out with me on Instagram or TikTok. I have some really wonderful communities over there. My handle is the same. It's at OM_therapy_coaching right there on your screen. And then my website, omtherapycoaching.com. We have lots of stuff going on. We always have whether it's one-on-one or group stuff or events, workshops, freebies, breathwork class. Like I'm trying to give you whatever I can. So come hang out with me and learn and heal.
I love it. Thank you, Gabby, so much. And thanks everyone for being here on Set to Love today. I appreciate you. We will be back next Monday with an awesome guest. Gabby, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you being here on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, guys.
Of course. Bye. Have a great day, everyone.